My name is Cameron White, and today we'll be talking to you about open source. So let's get into it, man. Here's the agenda for today. So we're going to talk about what open source is, a little bit about its history, some of the key players who brought about this whole idea of open source. We're going to talk about the information technology implications of open source, implications outside the digital realm, such as the business implications, economic, and the implications in the field of medicine, excuse me. Then we're going to talk a little bit about where we can see in the IT world open source going. So a little bit about its future applications. So let's penetrate the mind of open source. So before we start, we're going to go into a couple of the terms that are used to describe open source. First is source code, and that's basically the programming language of a certain software program, usually only accessible by the copyright holder, but as we will begin to see, that will change. Software, I mean, that's any computer program operating information used by a computer to carry out a certain task. Open source software is really what we're going to talk about, and that's any software with publicly accessible source code. So, open source, what really is it? Like I said on the previous slide, it's software available to the public, but it's free and the source code is accessible, meaning access is granted to anybody for any type of purpose, as long as that purpose is maintained as public information. A couple of these purposes can include to study programming languages, to change the language to cater to their certain goals, or to distribute this certain program or software to be even more so publicly accessible. Ultimately, in layman's terms, it's collaborative software, a big giant public project. So a little bit about the history. Information sharing goes back to the early stages of the internet. It started with the sharing of early programs and early source code. And what started as source code was originally the free software movement. And during one of these meetings, Christine Peterson coined the term open source. Linus Torvalds was the one who really brought it into the public eye with his operating system, but we'll get to him a little bit later. The Open Source Initiative was then founded by Eric S. Raymond, and the Freeware Summit was renamed Open Source Summit, even more so just pushing the idea of open source and publicly accessible source code. So the key players in the naming, as I mentioned, Christine Peterson coined the term, Eric S. Raymond promoted the term, Tim O'Reilly widely popularized the term. He's a software publisher and therefore started calling things source code in the public eye, and then the public started adopting the term source code, using it in the public day-to-day speech. The key players in development, Ken Thompson, one of the leading software engineers of Unix operating system. This was kind of the precursor to open source computing and open source software. This was followed closely by Linus Torvalds, who invented Linux, which is kind of an integration of Unix and then his own style of open source computing. Like I said, this is an open source operating system, and Linus Torvalds, despite being the chief operator of Linux, has only authored 2% of the current kernel being the operating system as it stands today. And that is because the amount of authors on the current kernel is so extensive that Torvalds has only authored 2%. He is the largest shareholder in the kernel, but that doesn't take away from the fact that there are an immense amount of collaborators on it right now. Linus Torvalds has said that open source is the only right way to do software. That being said, he also said that he would choose the correct software and hardware for the job. The information technology implications of open source software is worldwide collaboration. The movement from proprietary software to public software creates a seamless idea integration streamline in between people all over the world. Access is granted to anybody with an internet connection to high-grade software. Outside the digital realm, the whole open source mindset has kind of taken over in the information technology world and many things outside. the idea of worldwide collaboration, fast info exchange, and easy idea implementation have really caught fire in the minds of many individuals. Many hands make light work. That's why open source is so popular. And one project I'm very fond of is it's called Free Beer, and it was founded in a Copenhagen university, and it is an open source beer project. They're able to exchange brewing best practices to create the ultimate beer. Business implications. Businesses can utilize open source programs to adapt software to reflect their specific needs in the corporate world. And as we know, those needs are ever changing, and that never ending flow of best practices will become vital as open source software is adopted in the workplace. This allows for rapid feedback in between all corporate functions. Economic implications. Open source software is a business owner's dream. Many collaborators, that leads to extensive amount of ideas, low cost, practically free, and there's no such thing as a free lunch. Yes, there is. It's called open source. And in medicine, same thing as business. Best practices can be easily exchanged, and advancement in third world countries is close to follow. Future of open source, cloud computing, big data, operating systems, Internet of Things. It's all going there. Absolutely. I mean, the possibilities are endless. It's absolutely ridiculous. I love it personally. It's free, fast, fun. And everybody's going to adopt open source here in the new future. And if you don't, Sir Charles might say, "That's terrible." All right. Thanks. Have a nice day. This has been Cam White, Fram Newton. You guys take it easy. I'm out.